December already. I felt like that jumped in super fast. Hope you're all excited for the Christmas rush, cause I'm not. Working in retail for the first time so close to the holidays has been interesting, but it's always nice to come home and get back to my store and character designing roots. And today we'll be redesigning Thyme, renamed to Clover, from High Guardian Spice. And for the few who are looking forward to it, you read the title right, I'll be dropping a sneak peek at the rewrite along with explaining how the whole thing is going to work. I'm very excited for that segment, so let's just go ahead, skip the intro, and jump right into it. I think out of all the girls, Thyme has the best design. Not saying that it's really good, just better. The dress, boots, and coloring make sense for her with her background, it looks natural, fits in with the world, and tells us a little about her character. The green and brown colors instantly get you thinking about a natural, down-to-earth girl, while her hunting boots and chest guard thing works well as subtle hints to where she's from and what her gimmick is. So overall, the whole look just really works here. There are some issues I do hold though. I'll get the smaller one out of the way and say that I don't think her character would realistically wear a dress. For one, Thyme is very much a tomboy and very athletic. We see her jumping and running around in fights, and I can't help but think that with how short that skirt is, that some accidents might happen. It would be fine if she had pants or even stockings under it, but for a warrior like Thyme, I just don't see her actually making this fashion choice. The next and biggest problem I have with her is her hair. It's almost as big as Rosemary's, and just like hers, it would realistically be getting in her way all the time. In a more realistic setting, this would be getting into her face every other moment, not to mention how hot it looks. Also, doesn't she keep her bow on her back? How does she reach back to grab it without also grabbing chunks of her hair? These are my only real issues with the design. Overall, I really think she's caught in the in-between of looking like a main character and a side/background character. Not saying that that's a bad thing necessarily. I genuinely believe that having some of your main characters look like they could fit in the background is a really good decision. It makes your world feel really real, your characters realistic, and shows that you're a smart author. And the fact that Thyme matches this description doesn't bother me at all, really. I think it's a good thing for her. She is the kind of character who would want to fly under the radar, and that's exactly what she does here. Though she is still a main character and therefore needs our attention. With my Thyme, who I mentioned a minute ago was going to be renamed the Clover in the rewrite, I fixed all these problems while also adding some more main characterness to her. Starting from the top, I had the perfect way to fix that mane. I was only going to originally have dreadlocks at first with giant braids as bangs, but then I added this curly ponytail hanging out of her bun, and I think it just looks so cute. I can imagine that with her hair down, it would be half braided, half free curls, which is one of my favorite black hairstyles. It's so gorgeous, but I don't see it too often. But even with the ponytail, her hair is now free off her neck and out of the way. Very much so, considering I placed her bow and arrow sheath on her belt now for easier access. Moving on to her clothes, I had her wear a mask to help her look more mysterious, since that's how the actual show wanted to go. It also makes her look more emotionless looking, which is a big part of her character. I can see her wearing the mask for the purpose of blocking emotions from others, since she wants to be alone and focus only on saving her home, and someday returning to it, leaving behind this school and everything in it. I replaced her dress with a tunic, which I think matches her a lot better and fits into the world just as well. I also gave her this pretty crop top shirt over it. It's to add more interest to her character, but also serves as a little bit of lore for the world. I'm thinking that this certain garment can be something elves wear all the time that other species usually don't. Since Clover obviously loves her home and her people, she would definitely be very adamant on wearing this traditional wear, even so far from home. But even on top of that, I gave her a scarf to kind of replace the cloak that we see her wear throughout the show. I'm thinking she would wear it all the time, and if she feels overcrowded or wants to slip away, she pulls the back part of it over her head like a hood. It can be a comfort item to her, maybe even something her father gave her before she was forced to leave her home with her mother. For the final detail, I gave my girl her pants, a bag on her leg that keeps her herbal medicine, because of course she would know and keep that, and also bags on her boots. I don't know what she would keep in these, if anything at all, but I just thought it looked really nice. For coloring, I was actually really indecisive about the colors for her clothes. I wanted brown, black, and green, but couldn't decide where. I even went back and made changes after recording because when I finished, something just didn't feel right, and it took me hours to pinpoint it. I did know for a fact that I wanted her crop shirt to be green, and I later changed the tunic to be black to make it pop very well, while still staying muted. I thought I might have needed to remove the yellow design on it, but after making the final changes, I think it worked out really fine. The pants and boots I struggled with the most. I kept changing the browns around, and like I said, didn't feel satisfied with the end result. You'll see in the end picture that I saved this by turning the boots black and keeping the pants brown. I think that what it was just too much brown on the bottom, making the whole thing look like stacked colors. But with the changes, it looks a whole of a lot better. You might have also noticed that I played around with the pupils a lot. Since she's an elf, I really wanted her species to have unique eyes in this world, for no particular reason at all. At first, I thought maybe no pupil. It looked cool, but was a little too emotionless even for Clover. I was torn a little between crescent moon pupils and star pupils, but I think the moons were definitely the right choice. It kind of makes her look like she has two pupils, which I think is really cool and unique, having both her and her species stand out in the world, and lets her stand apart from her prissy asshole counterparts from other fantasy worlds. And finally, if you've been wondering what the hell the bird is, the answer is nothing. I have no idea what I wanted Clover's pose to be because I didn't want it to be like the pose next to her for no reason at all. So my brain just ended up with bird on hand because she likes nature and stuff. Get it? I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in the background of the rewrite or something. But now that all the character designing is out of the way, we get to talk about the character herself and how she'll look in the rewrite. This section is going to be pretty short because nothing too drastic will be changed. Her whole plot with looking for a way to save her home, wanting to do it alone, but learning to accept help from her friends will stay more or less the same. Actually, most of that plotline is going to be pushed to the side for Season 1 to make way for another plotline that I think needs to go first. We'll still have setup for this storyline in Season 1, but for now, I have big plans for the first season and don't have the room for her stuff to go beside it. I think really this will work out better because it can take a long time for a person to open themselves up, so pushing back her arc might be better than it initially sounds. But what will this Season 1 arc look like, you ask? And how exactly is this whole thing going to work? Honestly, I'm trying to figure out the little details myself, but I've got the foundation down. The rewrite is just around the corner, so I'll quickly explain it here and then give you all that sneak peek I was talking about. So the rewrite isn't going to be an animatic or a comic. It's actually going to be in audiobook form, here on YouTube, voiced by me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write it in book form, so there won't be any episodes, only chapters, then do the voiceover for them all while speed drawings of scenes from the chapters play on the screen. I was wondering how many chapters I should do in a video, and I think I'll go with just one since I do want to do more than one picture per chapter, maybe 3 per chapter in a beginning, middle, end sort of way. I feel like this will help me not get overwhelmed and also help me post faster. I'm totally going to post one big compilation of them all at the end and make a playlist for you to listen to without needing to click on and off the videos manually. The sample you're about to hear is the prologue, with just a voice and a speed draw of who we're going to be redesigning in the next video playing in the background. In the actual rewrite, there's going to be background effects like talking in crowds, bird chirping, you get the gist. Now keep in mind this may be a sneak peek, but it is also hugely a practice run. I'm going to be re-recording the prologue later because I haven't used my audiobook voice in years, much less recording an audiobook. I'll also need to figure out which voices I need to use for who, and I won't be adding any effects this time for simplicity's sake. So take the actual sound quality with a grain of salt and just focus on the story. And without further ado, High Guardian Spice, The Rewritten Tale, Prologue. Many would say that the Scarborough Kingdom had been around since the beginning of time, and while this wasn't true, it was still the largest and most prosperous country in all the world. There are many aspects to why this is, but the biggest reason for its successful existence is the presence of guardians. Guardians only exist in the Scarborough Kingdom, and throughout their long existence, their mission has always stayed the same: to protect the people of the land, to calm nature, and to connect with the magic that flows through the wind, to preserve the land's ancient history and ensure that the history yet to be written will be of tranquility and peace. Their job isn't easy, and many hardships fall to those who choose to walk down its path, but it is evident that the Scarborough Kingdom wouldn't have been the longest-standing kingdom of peace without their mighty protectors. The young girl with fair skin and pink-colored hair closed the heavy leather-bound book, already bored with it. She must have read and reread that book a dozen times, but still the questions in her mind were never answered. She looked out the glass of the windowsill that she was sitting on and watched as many men and women as they rushed around preparing for the task soon at hand. She sighed and hopped down from her seat, putting the book away before exiting her room and walking downstairs. Her family had a quaint home right in the center of Pebble, the town that they lived in. It was 3 floors high, the top floor being all the bedrooms, the middle floor serving as a living area, and the bottom floor being a whole bakery where her father worked. She loved her home. It was safe, it was comfortable, it was hers. But right now, it didn't feel like any of those things. As she reached the middle floor, evidence of last night still surrounded her. The once clean living room was wrecked. Books fallen on the floor, furniture that had been rammed out of place, and the smashed window letting in a cold, miserable breeze. The 5-year-old girl looked at the window and then at the few bits of glass that no one had bothered to clean up yet. There was something sitting right at the base of the window. In the chaos, no one must have noticed it. She walked up to it slowly, as if it were something poisonous, but how could a little baby blue rattle be anything but innocent? She picked it up gently, as if it were made of glass, and slowly turned it over in her hands, like she could find a clue on the why and how it had happened. The beads trapped inside let out noise as she did so, and there was a tiny blue bow at the top of the handle. She looked up as she heard the shout of a man commanding others to bring the horses out faster. They were almost ready to leave. "Paprika?" A voice she barely heard, but knew all too well, sounded behind her. Turning, the little girl faced her mother. She was a stoic and majestic woman. She already had her silver armor over her muscular body. Paprika got her pink hair from her, although her mother's was closer to white and done up in 2 thin pigtails. She had a thin scar running over her nose and under her eye, a sign of who she was. "I came to say goodbye," she said, looking at her daughter with her beautiful blue eyes. Paprika looked back at her, using the light green eyes that her father gave her, but no words left her mouth. She knew her mother would come to say goodbye. She had been preparing for it all morning, but now that it was finally here, she found it hard to speak. So, instead, she looked at the ground sadly. "Paprika, what's wrong?" her mother asked, taking a few steps forward. It took a moment for the young girl to look up and speak, but when she did, she clutched the baby blue rattle tightly in her hands. "You only just got back from a month-long adventure," she started timidly. "And you're leaving again, already, just like last time." "Paprika," her mother said, with guilt in her voice. She stepped closer to her daughter and crouched down to her eye level. "The last thing I want to do is leave again. I don't want our family to be split up all the time, but I have no choice in this matter. I cannot return until I have hunted down the people who have broken into our home. I cannot rest until I find the people who took your baby brother, and bring him and the people who did this back home into justice." She put a reassuring hand on her daughter's shoulder, hoping to bring her comfort. "That is why I must leave." There was a moment of stillness as the mother and her daughter stood there, unmoving and without sound, but the younger one soon opened her mouth to speak words she had wanted to speak for so long now. Well, maybe he wouldn't have been taken if his mom was around a little more. Paprika, her mother said, standing up in shock. You're never around when we need you, Paprika continued. Paprika, my work is very important. But why does it always have to be you? Why can't other guardians take your place sometimes? You take on even the smallest of missions. It feels like you're trying to take whatever excuse you can get just to avoid us. The young girl's eyes started to leak tears as the mother watched on, unsure of what to do. Paprika, she repeated again, slowly. What may seem like a small mission for you would have to be the end of the world for someone else if I didn't step in. I hope that one day you can understand that. For a moment, there was just silence as her mother looked for something else to say, but she couldn't find anything. Goodbye, my daughter. I'll be back soon, she said, before turning and leaving the young girl all alone once more. Days turned into a month, and then a month turned into a year. Paprika held on to her hope of her mother's and her brother's return, even when her mother's sword, Flowering Thorn, was found outside of Witch Country. With the sword in her hand, she still believed that her mother was still out there, even if she had to be the one to look for her. Well, what do we think? Pretty good? I think so. I'm actually really proud of this and am very excited to record more. I will admit that I only have this in chapter 1 written, but hey, life is busy, okay? And it was always going to be the plan to have more chapters written when the thing actually started. I will say real quick, before I go, that I will also be putting the rewrite on my Wattpad page if you ever wanted to reread this yourself. I do have an original novel already up on there, with currently 48 chapters available as of writing this. So now that you've seen a little into my writing style, it might be a good time to read the description that I just placed on screen and check it out. Maybe drop a follow so you can read the rewrite later. But that's all for now. I have to go and drink water, I guess. But please go ahead and give me feedback on what you think of the prologue and if you'll listen to the rest of it. I always love hearing what you all have to say. But for now, good night and God bless.